Well, thanks for taking time to be with us this morning, Brent.
It's a pleasure.
Now, you've been at the helm now for about 2 months. How are things going?
Things are going well, I think. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it so far. I have to say that I've had some insight into the position for the last several years and being able to see it from afar. But it is a little bit different than I thought. I almost feel as though I'm trying to catch a bullet with my teeth, but it's coming along.
As you know, we canvassed your division to get questions for this interview, and we got a lot. We're not going to be able to cover all of them in the interview. We're going to hit the high points, but we will be coming back and responding to those questions and getting them up on WildNet. Before I get into those questions, I've got a few kind of general questions to ask, and one is, will there be any changes in store for the division now that you're getting settled in?
Lydia, in an organization this size, I think we're always in change, and I think we always need to be in change. As circumstances change in our world, we need to be able to adapt. I like to think that this transition is going to be pretty seamless. The values and the things that were important to Walt are important to me. They're important to our division and to all of our employees. And obviously, we're going to be looking for ways to make ourselves more efficient and streamline operations and be progressive and look forward. So I think that there will be change, yes, but it's probably best measured over time.
What are your priorities for this fiscal year, and especially as we head into the legislative session?
Our priorities are first, I think, to position ourselves where we can speak about the values of state parks as these budget talks are progressing and they begin to move forward. We need to be able to understand our operations well enough that we can be very responsive, provide accurate information. There's lots for me to learn. This is a new role, so I've been learning as much as I can and preparing myself to be able to describe and articulate those kinds of needs to the Legislative Budget Board or anybody else that might ask. Another important part of this first year to me is establishing some relationships with our other divisions, internally and externally, and our partners. And it's really important that I do that, and I want them to know who I am and what state parks are all about. And so that's going to be my focus.
Okay, as mentioned, we got a lot of questions on a lot of different topics, and we're just going to hit the high points.
Sure.
And as you might expect, we got a question about TXPARKS. And that question was, what are they doing to ensure that TXPARKS will get better and not slow down or go down every other weekend?
Well, I understand that fear. TXPARKS is an enormous project, and we've committed a lot of resources to this project, and as it's been in development for a couple of years now. It's really important to know that we've made mistakes, and we know this, and in the way that we've structured, the way we've approached the management of the project. And I'd say this not only from our perspective, but also the vendors. And we've had candid conversations, both parties, and we're looking forward with lessons learned from the past. We've restructured our management approach to it, and we've built in some safeguards and processes to make sure that some of the releases of new development in the software packages actually meets our needs, and that we're doing a better job at communicating what those needs are on the front end of development. I don't have a great deal of experience with software development, but what I have learned is that very rarely do they come out without glitches. And it's a testament to the commitment of our staff that they've endured all this, and they continue to come to work with a good attitude and looking forward to the day and hopeful that we're going to make improvements to this system that's very important to us. We're going to commit the resources to do it right, and we're going to make system and process improvements to ensure that those safeguards are in place before we go into phase 2. And right now we're in a stage where we're analyzing what we've received in the package and what we have not, and what we have received but yet needs improvement. And all of that will then roll into a phase 2 scope of work. And I'm hopeful because we know that we're committed, and we're confident that our vendor is committed to this as well.
I've gotten a question about reorganization and a comment that it looks like many of the senior staff, state park members, are closing in on retirement. Of course, your regional director position is open at this point. So the question is, what is the structure going to look like kind of going forward? Will we be looking at redrawing regional boundaries, reorganizing our structure?
Yeah. With any vacancy, I think it's important that we take a step back and say, do we do anything different? Is it time to reorganize or anything? I don't see that with this vacancy, this particular vacancy. I don't see a need to realign regions given the circumstances that we have today. Of course, things are always subject to change, but right now I don't anticipate that. But it does speak to a bigger issue, and it's our need to prepare staff for new roles. And this is going to be, that particular position is going to be a great opportunity, and we've got some fantastic folks ready to step into the role and probably show that their predecessor was underachieving.
We also got a lot of questions about employee retention and salary issues, some very specific, many of which we'll look to answer on WildNet.
Okay.
Picked a couple of kind of broader questions. One is, what new strategies are we going to be looking at or implementing to ensure employee retention?
It's a good question, and it's certainly a challenge to us. And one of the things that we've experienced in state parks over the last year or so, and a lot of it is driven by the economy, I think, and the unemployment rate, is that we're seeing more and more applicants for our vacancies, which is a good thing. So we have a much better pool from which to select, and we've got to commit ourselves first to hiring the best possible person. And I think as managers in this or any other organization, one of the most important things we do is put the right people in the right job. And so if we make that first decision well, then we have a much better chance of retaining them, ensuring that they're going to have good performance. Retention is such a complicated issue. There's so many factors involved, one being pay, of course, and we need to be competitive in what we pay and compensate employees, and we're committed to doing that. And, and I know we may get into this in other questions, but we have an ECIP is a term that we've used in state parks. It's Employee Compensation Improvement Plan. And it was a plan that we developed over the last couple of years to address and properly compensate employees based on their roles and their responsibilities. We didn't have the funds to fully implement that plan, so we've broken it up into phases. And what I want to do is be very transparent with the staff, and so and I can understand right now, and I appreciate the fact that it's confusing. Okay, we've implemented phase 1 of ECIP. What is left to be done? We've actually gone beyond phase 1, in some cases targeted specific positions that were clearly out of alignment and needed adjustment in compensation. And to the extent that we could afford it, we've addressed those positions, but obviously there's more to do. Facing a budget shortfall, as we are, we know that this is going to be a particular challenge. But pay is certainly an important part of retention. But there's something that we can do that I think that doesn't cost money, and it's something that I'm committed to, and it's my hope and expectation that our entire management team will be committed to. And that's creating a work environment that for employees that they love and that they can appreciate and that they feel like they're valued and a part of, and that we communicate very clearly, and they know their role, and they know that their role is very important, and that's done through good planning, but more importantly probably through good relationship building between management and staff, and that we can be supportive. And so those are some of the things that I think are important in retention that we're going to commit to.
Here's a real specific question about state park police officers, and the question is, where do you stand on getting them on salary Schedule C?
Schedule C for our law enforcement program is a difficult thing, and I want to preface all this by saying we have an outstanding law enforcement program. Officers do a terrific job. They're very professional, they're well trained, they execute their jobs well. I feel like I can say this because I was a state park police officer for 20 plus years, so I've received that training and I've been right there with our guys in the field. Having said that, if we were to move towards Schedule C in our law enforcement program, it would really disrupt our current pay structure in state parks. I mean, and it's important that although we recognize that the authority given to an officer in state parks is that same authority for these Schedule C officers in this and other agencies. To adopt that compensation scale would totally disrupt what we're doing, and it's important that we recognize that reality. And to be frank, I don't see it happening anytime soon. It's as worthy and important as that is, it's just simply not something that we could afford or accommodate within our current pay structure in state parks.
It's a difficult question and a very straight answer. So, will there be any movement to bring about a career ladder for rangers?
Another good question related to pay. And I can understand where this might be confusing, and some people might think there's inequity in that some positions have career ladders associated with them and some do not. And that's something that I really want to take a close look at, because there may be a need, and it may be justified that some positions have built-in career ladders while others don't, based on how quickly do those positions turn over? Are they likely to move? Are there opportunities to move from that site to another? Of course, we're spread out over the entire state, and it's natural that a superintendent, for example, might progress. They can afford to move perhaps from this park to another park across the state. It's not as easily done for a park ranger, not at that pay. And to expect them to relocate a family and move across the state at that pay is a difficult thing. So, and I'm not trying to skate around this issue, because I think it needs further analysis. But there is we need to address the problem of properly compensating staff. And one of the goals in this agency, and certainly in this division, is that we pay at the mid-range level of a position's classification. And in years past, we've found ourselves in the lower quarter percentile of pay for any position, basically, in the way they're classified. And so our hope is that we're going to begin at mid-range and then move up. And that, coupled with if we can achieve that, and then that coupled with a good incentive program through an awards program through good performance, and in bonuses, then I think is another way to address that. But we need to expand and consider the full suite of options as it relates to compensation, and certainly a career ladder is part of that package, and it's one that we might look to implement, but we have to be able to afford it.